Tonight, Canadians brace for economic turmoil as the reality of a full-blown trade war with the U.S. sinks in.
They owe us a lot of money, and I'm sure they're going to pay.
As Donald Trump ratchets up the rhetoric, new details about Ottawa's plan to hit back.
We didn't ask for this, but we will not back down.
The real fear about what comes next for crucial Canadian industries.
It's devastating. It'll devastate us, and it'll impact quickly.
And the anger growing across the country.
I think it's disgusting. I think we should do everything we can to buy Canadian.
Plus, what this could all mean for you.
Our grocery prices are going to get more expensive because of the trade war.
Your questions on Trump's tariff.
From CBC News, this is The National with Ian Hennemanzing.
There are new details tonight on the thousands of U.S. products now in the crosshairs of Canadian tariffs. Ottawa's response to Donald Trump's 25% tariffs on most Canadian goods. The action and reaction opening an economic rift unlike anything seen in decades. Canada's 25% retaliatory tariffs will hit a wide range of U.S. farm products, raw materials, and manufactured goods. The majority of provinces already taking U.S.-made alcohol off the shelves entirely. Officials urging people to buy Canadian to spur a consumer boycott. Trump's response today, furious, again calling for Canada to become, quote, our cherished 51st state. We have coverage from Washington and from across Canada on how this country is bracing for the blow and preparing to hit back. But we begin in Ottawa. JP Tasker has the details on the Canadian government's response that begins Tuesday, just as Trump's tariffs kick in.
After U.S. President Donald Trump launched a trade war, Canada is hitting back.
We don't want to be here. We didn't ask for this. But we will not back down.
And now Ottawa has published a detailed list of the $155 billion worth of American goods Canada will target. More than 1,000 products, everything from juice and liquor to makeup and motorcycles. Fruits and vegetables, jewelry and washing machines also made the lengthy list.
Well, Canada's a very bad abuser.
It's retaliation against Trump for striking Canada first with a 25% tariff on virtually all our goods and a 10% tax on energy.
In this moment, we must pull together because we love this country.
Trump's tariffs will be devastating for the Canadian economy. So many products will be priced out of the U.S. market.
And the impact will be dramatic. It's going to be quick.
More than 2 million jobs are tied to U.S. exports, and the premiers say hundreds of thousands of them could vanish. Ottawa is planning some sort of aid for those affected.
Canadians want us to stand proudly against this kind of action, but to support one another, and we'll be there for as long as it takes with whatever it takes.
To prop up the economy, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is demanding Trudeau recall Parliament to cut taxes and greenlight major energy projects.
It is insane that in this great crisis, Parliament is shut down.
Some Canadians are already lashing out, booing the American national anthem at a Toronto Raptors game. Canada's top diplomat in Washington is trying to smooth things over, still promising to crack down on drugs and migrants at the border to satisfy Trump's stated concerns.
It's hard to know what more we can do, but we're obviously open to any other suggestions that come our way.
There's no clarity on how long these tariffs could last. Pressure at home could force Trump's hand, but Canada is preparing for a war of attrition.
And part of that preparation will include an aid package, but that's tricky to do with Parliament shut down.
Yeah, government sources tell me they are preparing a multi-billion-dollar package to help workers and businesses weather this storm, and some of it could be done by cabinet orders alone. They say they don't need to recall Parliament until the end of March, but opposition parties are calling for new legislation. That's a risky proposition for the Liberals. If they bring back the House, there's a chance the government could be defeated on a confidence vote before Liberal Party members have even picked a replacement for Trudeau. So for now, the government will try to make do without the other parties and go it alone on tariff relief. Ian?
JP Tasker in Ottawa tonight. Donald Trump is reacting to Canada's counter-tariffs and in a shift said he'll be speaking to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tomorrow. But as Katie Simpson explains, there's no sign this trade war is off.
A defiant Donald Trump returning to Washington, digging in for a fight. In this moment, it seems unlikely a trade war can be avoided.
I'm speaking with Prime Minister Trudeau tomorrow morning, and I'm also speaking with Mexico tomorrow morning. And I don't expect anything very dramatic. We put tariffs on. They owe us a lot of money, and I'm sure they're going to pay.
Trump is undeterred, despite his own warnings of difficult times ahead. Writing on social media, will there be some pain? Yes, maybe, and maybe not. It will all be worth the price that must be paid.
Donald Trump saying no more. We're not going to be taken advantage of anymore.
Border security concerns and stopping illegal drugs may be the official reasons the Trump administration is using to justify the tariffs. But according to the vice president, tariffs will also generate revenue to pay for Trump's campaign promises.
We are committed to getting America back on a sustainable fiscal pathway. Part of that, we really think the president believes, is the tariff equation.
J.D. Vance seemed to change the goalposts again, writing on social media, "Spare me the sob story about how Canada is our best friend. Is the government meeting their NATO target for military spending?" Within Trump's inner circle, there's not much sympathy for America's trading partners.
So economically, yes, they will feel pain. They will feel what this consequences are, and will be able to continue to go forward with a president who's strong, who's putting America first.
There are some hostile words, too, for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau after announcing Canada's response.
My advice to him is he probably ought to talk to the Canadian people who are about ready to throw him out of office because he's been a total disaster.
All of it is in line with Trump's increasingly incendiary rhetoric about Canada. Complaining about trade deficits, he wrote, "Without this massive subsidy, Canada ceases to exist as a viable country. Harsh but true. Therefore, Canada should become our cherished 51st state."
Between the tariffs and the language, Trump is facing intense opposition from Democrats who are warning Americans about just how much this is going to increase the cost of living. Estimates here range anywhere from an extra $1,200 a year to much higher costs if people are planning to make any big-ticket purchases like a vehicle.
Katie, this is big news here, of course. Are there signs that Americans are paying attention?
Yeah, it is being featured prominently on U.S. cable news, and local news networks are picking it up too. Meme culture is taking a crack at it, so it is getting play on social media. But it will really take hold once prices do start to go up and if people's jobs are in jeopardy. Ian.
Katie Simpson in Washington. Calls are growing tonight from politicians and businesses for consumers to fight back against the tariffs with the dollars they spend. Quabino Duro on the push to buy Canadian and how it's already gaining momentum.
It's how this independent grocer is fighting back, one Made in Canada sticker at a time.
I was pleasantly surprised at just how many products were getting the label put in front of them. So that part makes me proud.
But that feeling is accompanied by fear about how tariffs will affect the economy and his business.
I'm nervous. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of anxiety about how this is going to play out.
Some Canadians are already starting to change their shopping habits.
I've been shopping local forever, so I would rather support the local economy.
My wife and I were thinking of solely buying Canadian. We're actually looking at different companies that would replace.
Just got to do it. You just got to pay attention, read the labels, see where things come from.
Please stick to the Canadian products.
That message is not only resonating with Canadians, but comedians are having a little fun with it too.
You were going to buy American maple syrup?
Oh. Okay, that costs way more.
So does freedom.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, along with premiers from across the country, are encouraging people to buy Canadian. Experts warn, though, it might be hard to tell what's Canadian and what isn't because the North American economy is so intertwined.
It says it right in the name, buy Canadian.
Jared Roush has been helping Canadians find Made in Canada products for years. He created a Buy Canadian page on the social media website Reddit during Donald Trump's first presidency.
We're back at that point again, and this time it's a reality, so it's been growing in popularity like crazy the last week or two.
Experts say the Buy Canadian movement could have an impact, but to work, it will need consistent buy-in from consumers. Quabino Duro, CBC News, Montreal.
Let's bring in senior business reporter Nisha Patel. Nisha, this is a severe shock to the economy. How is it expected to play out?
Well, if this trade war lasts for just a month or two, experts tell me the hit to the economy will be limited. But if it goes on for a year, there's a real risk Canada will sink into recession. Demand for Canadian exports will drop and businesses will hold off on investment, knocking 2% or more off real GDP in 2025. And unemployment, which has already been ticking up for months, could hit 8%. If Donald Trump increases tariffs even further, as he's warned he might, Ian, the downturn will be even deeper.
Government aid might help workers and businesses. What else could soften the blow?
Well, the Bank of Canada could respond with more aggressive interest rate cuts. The key rate right now stands at 3%. Some economists predict we could see it go down to 1.5%. A lower Canadian dollar could also provide some buffer for exporters against those tariffs. The loonie has dipped below 68 cents U.S. in early trading. That's the lowest in 2 decades, and analysts say it could fall even further to 64 cents. Of course, Canadian importers and travelers will feel their dollar isn't stretching as far, so there are 2 sides to that coin. But one thing to watch, Ian, is stock market reaction around the world as the trading day opens Monday. It may be a really volatile day for investors as they weigh the impact of a trade war.
Nisha Patel in Toronto. Canada's auto industry is expected to be hit hard and fast by the Trump tariffs because it's so integrated with U.S. plants. Job cuts could start within days. About 125,000 Canadians work directly for the industry, with spin-off jobs employing more than twice that number. The sector's worth $14 billion a year to the GDP. And for decades, it's depended on the seamless crossing of parts across the border, often back and forth a few times as a vehicle is assembled. Lisa Shing shows us the fear gripping the sector tonight and the uncertain road ahead for a vital export industry.
It's shift change at this Windsor assembly plant, the city's largest employer, and workers like Jonathan Klein are on edge.
I got 2 little kids to worry about, so I definitely didn't sleep very well last night hearing about this news.
But you know what? The betrayal from Americans, it's horrible.
Windsor is Canada's automotive capital, home to more than 90 makers of cars and auto parts. It has a lot to lose, and the fallout could be fast once U.S. President Donald Trump's 25% tariffs take effect.
I'm afraid for both sides, for my workers, for the workers in the United States, but it's devastating. It'll devastate us, and it'll impact quickly.
Especially since the region's auto industry is so closely tied to America's, with Michigan just across the river. Most of Canada's auto sector is based in Ontario. In 2023, 96% of its exports went to the U.S.
There will be production stoppages at plants across North America as these supply chains are turned on their head.
Some American politicians are also sounding this warning.
I cannot for the life of me figure out why you would impose and levy a tariff, which is usually levered at an adversary at best, if not an enemy, on our best ally.
Michiganders are already struggling with high costs, and the last thing we need is for those costs to increase even more.
Since vehicles go back and forth across the border multiple times during the manufacturing process, analysts say the cost for car makers could far exceed just 25%. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
And there's uncertainty tonight facing those who grow food in this country. With billions of dollars in exports at stake, Canadian farmers are bracing for a potentially devastating blow. Karen Paul's now on how the tariffs could be felt on farms.
Tobin Dick should be looking forward to spring planting. Instead, he's worried about selling his grain, much of it to the U.S., under harsh new tariffs.
As soon as we start dealing with lower commodity prices and then higher costs for things like machinery, fertilizer, and all the other inputs, that'll be really hard. I think a lot of people are on the edge.
Agriculture and agri-food accounts for 7% of Canada's GDP. 60% of our ag exports head south. That's worth about $40 billion every year. Crops are one thing. You can store them.
There's always cattle ready.
Live animals are another. They just keep growing. Canada is the world's 8th largest beef exporter and 3rd largest pork shipper.
If our product can't move into a big market like the U.S., it'll have negative implications to the entire agricultural sector.
Given the size of the U.S. market for our pork exports, especially in the short term, there really isn't alternatives.
More than 2 million Canadians work in agriculture, 1 in 9 jobs. In Manitoba, the pork industry alone supports 23,000 jobs at places like this Maple Leaf processing plant.
This is devastating for the entire agri-food sector, from farm gate to store or restaurant. So if we can't pivot and find new markets, the agri-food sector will have to right size, and that means a smaller industry. It means losing jobs, losing farms, losing plants.
With so much at stake and so much uncertainty, this plea from farmers.
Will be devastating for sure. It is a wake-up call for us to diversify our markets and to really strengthen our relationships with our global customers.
Karen Pauls, CBC News, near Winkler, Manitoba.
Canada's energy exports get a bit of a tariff break, 10% instead of 25%, but oil and gas experts say major disruption is still on the way. In Alberta, 150,000 jobs depend on energy. Emily Fitzpatrick looks at why so many now fear for their future.
Reality is sinking in for Alberta's energy sector, scrambling to gauge the impact of a 10% U.S. tariff.
Well, it's not as bad as 25%, but clearly no tariff is good. And the question is who pays?
Albertans expect it might be them.
I think it's disgusting myself. I think we should do everything we can to buy Canadian.
And drivers in the U.S. could quickly start paying more for gas.
I think people are going to be pressing the case hard over the next 18 days to say to the president, this is still going to hurt your consumers. You're not going to have a bunch of happy consumers in the swing states that just voted for you. And is that really what you want?
The impact on Canada's industry will swiftly follow.
The second order effect of this is that Canadian oil and gas companies become less profitable than their U.S. peers who do not have tariffs. That it affects the whole investment into Canada, which is also vital to keep our oil fields functioning.
With few international customers and a pipeline system linked so closely to the Americans, some experts say the tariffs will force down the price per barrel of Canadian crude by suppressing the demand. But with all that pain, there's also some potential to find new buyers for Canada's oil and gas, including here at home.
We don't want this A to happen again, and B, also this is a big opportunity for Canada and Alberta within Canada to grow up and try and get more diversified markets.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith said in a statement that she wants a national effort to fast-track building pipelines across Canada. But that won't happen overnight. Until then, Alberta and Canada will have to work with what's possible now and wait and see how Trump's tariffs play out. Emily Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Edmonton.
Mexico is also striking back against Trump's levies. President Claudia Sheinbaum has ordered retaliatory tariffs against the U.S., saying she was forced to respond in kind. She'll announce details on Monday. And China is denouncing the 10% tariff on its goods, vowing to challenge the measure at the World Trade Organization. But Beijing is not closing the door on negotiations, saying it hopes to avoid further conflict. Several premiers are pulling American alcohol from store shelves as their way of retaliating to Trump's tariffs.
We are going to be taking $80 million out of the U.S. economy.
The province is threatening this counter-punch. But first, parental pushback against Snapchat's secrecy.
I'm trying to keep my son safe while these drug dealers are manipulating them.
Why some say the app is a danger to their kids. We're back in 2.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
Some fans at last night's Ottawa Senators game making no secret of their displeasure with the Trump tariffs. The American national anthem met with a rousing chorus of boos just hours after the U.S. president confirmed a 25% tariff on almost all Canadian imports will begin on Tuesday. Turning to other news, in Philadelphia, investigators still searching for a key piece of evidence after Friday's deadly medevac plane crash.
We have located the two engines, but for the cockpit voice recorder, we're still looking for it.
At least 7 people died after a Learjet plummeted and exploded on impact shortly after takeoff. The 6 victims on board, all Mexican citizens, included a mother and child. 3 other people are still in hospital in critical condition. Officials say it could take days or weeks to get to the bottom of what caused the crash. An Ontario father says he's struggling to keep his teenage son away from drug dealers on Snapchat. Ithel Musa with our Go Public team on why some say the popular social media platform is ripe for drug trafficking.
It's an app known for its fun filters, but one Ontario parent warns Snapchat is also where illicit drugs are sold.
I'm trying to keep my son safe while these drug dealers are manipulating him because they're reaching out.
We're not identifying Roger to protect his son's identity. He says his 15-year-old has been buying drugs on Snapchat, but tracking that has been difficult for one main reason.
Messages on Snapchat are deleted once they're viewed by the recipient. It's a unique feature of the app that makes it nearly impossible, say some parents, to monitor illegal activity.
Getting access to drugs on Snapchat isn't just a problem here in Canada. In the U.S., relatives of more than 60 young people who've overdosed on drugs allegedly purchased on the app have filed a lawsuit that claims Snapchat's role in illicit drug sales to teens was the foreseeable result of the designs, structures, and policies Snap chose to implement to increase its revenues.
I think that Snapchat's executives belong in prison.
Sam Chapman is one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit. His 16-year-old son, Sammy, died in 2021 after overdosing on a pill he purchased on Snapchat. Chapman says his son didn't know it was fentanyl.
The dose that killed him was delivered to our front yard like a pizza after we were asleep, and we found Sammy dead on the floor.
Family Center. Snapchat says their parental control features allow parents to see who their child is talking to on the app and to report any concerns. The company also says it uses artificial intelligence to shut down the accounts of drug dealers. But this youth activist says it's not enough.
All of your messages and the photos you send, the stories you post, disappear after 24 hours. It creates this black box of social media where you don't have any record of what you sent.
And that has Roger in constant fear that his 15-year-old son will overdose.
I cried driving past a cemetery because I started thinking about, okay, if my son dies, how are we going to do this?
Roger says his focus now is keeping his son safe, and with Snapchat, it continues to be a challenge. Ithel Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Our Go Public stories come from you. If you have a tip for the team to investigate, send an email to gopublic@cbc.ca. Some provinces have announced they're banning American alcohol.
It feels kind of like we're caught in a schoolyard fight.
How this trade war could play out at your local liquor store. Plus, we'll tackle your questions on Trump's tariffs.
Is it possible that a decade from now, Canadians might thank Trump for making Canada stronger?
The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next.
Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods.
The Prime Minister vowing a tit-for-tat retaliation in the wake of Donald Trump's 25% tariffs as both sides fire opening salvos in a potentially punishing trade war. Most provinces are also taking a stand against the tariffs, pulling U.S. liquor from their shelves. Yvette Bren now with that part of the fallout and its toll on businesses.
Bottles of Kentucky bourbon and Tennessee whiskey are whisked from BC store shelves days before the U.S. tariffs hit.
It's sad. It's a sad state. Our two countries rely on each other. Our economies were interlinked after generations of building together, and it's sad to see that we're here today.
Manitoba liquor marts will pull American products by Tuesday.
This means that we are going to be taking $80 million out of the U.S. economy.
In Ontario, the LCBO is scrubbing American products from its catalog. American distillers say bans in multiple provinces will affect more than $1 billion in cross-border booze trade.
In the Canadian and the American distilled spirits industry has thrived together without tariffs and without trade barriers. And we need to muscle through this. It's going to hurt, but hopefully cooler heads will prevail with our governments.
Some economists warn fighting the U.S. tariffs tit for tat is a losing battle.
And for the mouse to attack the two-ton elephant and say we're going to get in there and beat them up and knock the mouse, the two-ton elephant out, it's just preposterous. And so we're going to lose.
This Vancouver bar manager says they'll be making old fashions in a new way, substituting BC spirits for American ones.
It feels kind of like we're caught in a schoolyard fight and a little childish and disappointing, and we're just hoping that this kind of gets resolved quickly.
For provinces still stocking U.S. alcohol when tariffs kick in on Tuesday, expect those prices to climb. Yvette Brand, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. Tonight we answer your questions as a trade war between longtime allies takes shape. The U.S. and Canada prepare their opening salvos in a trade war.
Canada's been very abusive of the United States for many years.
Tariffs against Canada will put your jobs at risk.
And on Canadian streets, anger and anxiety.
It's just the chaos of it all. It's like, what's the point?
So what does it all mean for you?
Our grocery price is going to get more expensive.
Your money, your business, your life, and how to resolve it.
Does Congress have to approve any of Trump's tariff measures?
We have expert panelists here to answer your questions on the eve of a critical moment for Canada. Tonight, we're hearing from many across the country about what worries them hours before the punch and counterpunch that could hurt both economies.
Confused, frustrated.
I guess, I just kind of wonder what this means for us.
Let's not panic. Let's wait and see.
We're America's, I'd say, closest neighbor and friend, and it just feels like betrayal to me.
I'm actually a dual citizen, dual American and Canadian citizen, and I've never felt more anti-American in my life. And I'm working on this list of products to boycott.
From first prices going up to then people starting to lose jobs.
I'm afraid for both sides, for my workers, for the workers in the United States, but it's devastating. It'll devastate us.
Part of that response from our politicians is Premier Doug Ford ordering the LCBO to pull American products off.
Fully behind it.
And explain why.
Well, because we need to do something to respond, and I think that's one of the ones that should hit, especially in the red states.
We manufacture a lot of auto parts for them over there, so they're making a lot of things more expensive for themselves. They're hurting themselves, they're hurting us, they're hurting everybody, all to fill this guy's ego, you know?
We don't need their stuff. We produce great stuff here in Canada.
We're just gonna have to be inventive, and we can figure it out.
We got to stick together at this time. We got to buy Canadian. We got to support our own businesses, and we're kind of in this together.
So lots of uncertainty, fear, and even anger from Canadians about these tariffs, and lots of questions. Joining us now to answer some of them, three guests from our Parliamentary Bureau: Janice McGregor in Ottawa, financial planner Jason Heath is in Pickering, Ontario, and Canada Bureau Chief for the New York Times, Martina Stevis-Gridneff, is in Toronto. So we've heard premiers asking people to buy Canadian or cancel vacations to the States, and our first question picks up on that. It's from Brenda Davis-White. She's in North Saanich on Vancouver Island, and she asks, how can the average Canadian assist during this trade crisis? Janice, I'll put that one to you.
Yeah, and to be clear, it's not really my job to tell a consumer what to do here, but you're right. There have been premiers pointing out how helpful it is if people support their own during this time, read the labels in the store, think carefully about the power of their own spending, maybe think about a business in your community that will be affected by not being able to sell as much into the States. Maybe your business is what could make the difference in terms of keeping them from having to relocate or close doors or lay people off. You're right, there have also been premiers suggesting that people consider their travel dollars, perhaps playing tourist closer to home for the time being. And the risk to American companies is that these things become habits, that you discover new things domestically and may not make as many American purchases down the road. But I also think, in terms of being prepared to help, taxpayers also have to brace themselves here. If more of the governments involved, for example, start buying Canadian instead of putting their contracts out to tender in the U.S. or something, that could result in things like infrastructure projects costing more. You might have to be willing to withstand that. And also, if they have to step in to help businesses and households like they did during COVID to weather this storm, that is something that ultimately comes back on the purse that taxpayers have to shoulder.
And Janice, I should point out to people that there are two sets of tariffs here, right? That President Trump announced tariffs on Canadian exports to the United States, and then Prime Minister Trudeau announced last night that there'd be retaliatory tariffs, and we'll see those in two steps. And we saw a list today of that first group, meat, dairy, some other products. As you looked at that list, Janice, what was the significance of what was on there?
Well, we've all been busily sort of taking what are really kind of dense codes on this long list and trying to figure out what states they were trying to hit with those particular brands that are so associated with politics. There are over 7,400 different kind of codes, and over 1,200 of them appear on this list, but it's kind of a bit of a puzzle for us as reporters to match them up. But a lot of stuff hitting Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, bourbon, right? And it is all the brands you're thinking of, the Harley motorcycles, the Jack Daniels, but a lot of farm products. And we know how politically important farmers are to Donald Trump. I would really watch that space.
And on Cross Country Checkup today, we got lots of questions from people worried about, in one case, a doctor talking about medical equipment. In another case, the owner of a construction company worried about equipment he might purchase. The key is, will a product be on that list of imports into Canada, which will have the tariffs attached? And that will answer those questions, and we'll learn a lot more in the next few days. Let's go on to our next question for this program now from Sam Yanisic. He responded to CBC via TikTok. Wait, our dollar is going to go down? Isn't it 67 cents? How much lower can it go? Jason, you're a financial planner. Do you have the answer and how much lower it can go?
Well, it's tough to say. We've already seen a pretty significant decline in the Canadian dollar since the fall, from 75 cents down to 68 cents currently. Last time we saw the dollar this low was 2016, but that was temporary. The last time we really saw an extended period of time where the dollar was this low was back 2003. There was about a 5-year period where the Canadian dollar was exceptionally weak. But if you look back, Ian, over the last 50 years, the Canadian dollar has only been weaker 10% of the time, and primarily around that sort of turn of the millennium period. So, most of the time, the Canadian dollar has not been this bad. Could it get worse? Sure, it could. Would I panic? Would I, be buying U.S. dollars in order to hedge against continued declines? I don't think so. And this isn't just a Canada-U.S. dollar story. Foreign investors tend to buy U.S. dollars when there's risk in the world, and the U.S. dollar has actually risen against several currencies, not just the Canadian dollar. The trend may continue, but it really depends how far this situation escalates and how the two countries continue to respond.
Let's go to a question now that was sent in to us on video.
My name's Doug Beckett. I live in Ottawa, Ontario. And my question is, does Congress have to approve any of Trump's tariff measures? And if it's just at his whim as an emergency, is there any scrutiny or set of criteria applied to what constitutes an emergency?
So, Martina, even Canadians have learned about the separation of powers and about the executive branch in the United States and the legislative branch. So President Trump has issued these orders. Can Congress do something here?
Well, to directly answer Doug's question, it doesn't need to approve them. It's an executive order, and the legislation under which President Trump has issued these executive orders gives him quite a lot of power. And so with a stroke of a pen, these tariffs will go into place. Now, there are ways in which Congress could intervene, and also the courts could intervene. Generally, I think the consensus is that Congress is very, very unlikely to intervene. There's not enough Republicans that do not support, or we think do not support, President Trump's measures. So that wouldn't really be an avenue. And of course, the court's avenue would be very, very uncertain. And so I think that while in theory some checks do exist, I think in practice we're unlikely to see those materialize.
Okay, let's get another question that came to us via TikTok. This one from Jess Bargain. Don't we have a free trade agreement that this would be violating? Janice?
Yeah, we sure do. It's called NAFTA, or as Donald Trump renamed it, right? USMCA, or in Canada we call it CUSMA, called it the best deal ever. And now officials at the briefing today pointing out that yes, that move yesterday is a violation. That's part of the reason why they're rethinking some of the concessions that Canada made, trying to rebalance the playing field with the steps they're taking today. They do have an appeal mechanism under CUSMA where they could go back to the U.S. and say, hey, you're breaking the rules. But would they care any more about sort of, upholding the appeal part of the deal than they did the main idea of NAFTA, which is tariff-free trade in North America? Canada also announced today it's going to appeal to the World Trade Organization, but the Trump administration, even the first time round, was pulling back from using any of the dispute resolution processes in Geneva. So it's not clear that that will work, although they're kind of upholding a principle in doing that. The space to watch is whether this leads to an eventual end of NAFTA altogether. Mexico's president kind of opened the door to that on Friday. We're not there yet, but if this escalates, that is something I'm watching.
Our next question is from Toronto.
Hi, I'm Jared. I'm in Toronto. I'm just wondering, are grocery prices going to get more expensive because of the trade war?
Jason, financial planner, what do you think?
Well, I mean, they sure could. Tariffs could have an immediate increase on prices of a lot of things that we're importing from the United States. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce actually estimated that the 25% tariff could cost the average Canadian household about $1,900 more on an annual basis. In some cases, there might be alternatives, substituting, as we talked about, domestic goods for imported ones, but in a lot of cases, there's not going to be. And I think that the key thing to remember is this is not a permanent price increase. This is not, the type of inflation that we saw coming out of the pandemic where prices went up and have not really gone down. This could be temporary. It could be weeks. It could be months. It's hard to say. But for now, I think we need to brace for higher prices, and consumers need to prepare accordingly.
Okay, we have lots more questions and answers. We'll get to those right after the break. Welcome back. We're answering some of your tariff questions with Janice McGregor from our Ottawa Bureau, Jason Heath, the financial planner, who's in Pickering tonight, and Canada Bureau Chief for the New York Times, Martina Stevis-Gridneff, who is in Toronto. And let's start off this segment with another question on video.
Hello, The National. My name is Jihao Yang, and I'm a grade 12 student here in Coquitlam, British Columbia. My question is, as devastating as they will be, could the now newly confirmed U.S. tariffs be a chance for the economies of Canadian provinces to better integrate? Is it possible that a decade from now, Canadians might thank Trump for making Canada stronger and consolidating our identity as a nation?
What are you hearing about that, Janice?
Yeah, I have been covering interprovincial trade barriers for almost my entire life as a journalist up here, which I'm afraid to say is well over a decade now. Anita Anand is the latest minister tasked with trying to lower these barriers. She had a meeting just last Friday, actually, with the trade ministers from all the provinces and territories, trying to look at things like regulations, safety rules, professional credentials, all the things that economists tell us are really holding Canada's economy back. the problem is, I feel a little bit kind of like with Charlie Brown and the football. I've been here before. I've heard people talk about this problem at length. They never seem to be able to do anything about it. Is Donald Trump the guy that finally gets it done? I do not know. But you know what? Across the history of Canada, this has always been the problem, right since our founding. It's easier for people to trade north-south with their neighbor that might only be an hour or two away than it is to trade across a huge country. And we have a lot of transportation infrastructure problems. It's expensive, not very many companies competing for that business. You know, infrastructure needs to be improved. Premiers have been talking about that for years. Do we finally do something about it now? I don't know.
By the way, I live my life constantly in fear of Lucy pulling away that football from me. Here's a question that was sent by Ryan Hinton in Victoria. I'm concerned about how the U.S. tariffs will affect my current and future financial investments, including mutual funds and various stock portfolios, GICs, real estate, etc. Wonder if I'm going to put this question to Jason. Jason, go ahead.
Well, let me look into my crystal ball, Ian. You know, stock markets were down modestly on Friday. Futures markets for tomorrow's opening are pointing towards a slight decline. So there's really been no major stock market reaction yet. I think if you're a long-term investor, Ryan, adding to your investments, I mean, a downturn would just be a buying opportunity. I don't think I would change anything as a result of this. If you're a retiree, I mean, hopefully you're in a position where you're withdrawing 2, 3, 4, 5% from your portfolio, such that, you know, most of it is coming from dividend and interest income and not capital. So you're not going to be forced, hopefully, to sell anything at a big loss. If you're saving for a short-term goal, say you need this money in the next couple of years and you're going to withdraw all of it from your investments, you know, I think I would consider taking some money off the table, not because I'm worried that stocks are going to fall, but because it's too short a time horizon for the stock market and stock market risk at any time. So I think this highlights the risk of also only investing in Canada or only in North America, and why a Canadian investor needs to have a global stock allocation. It makes more sense now than ever. So if this is the sort of thing that causes somebody to reevaluate their risk tolerance, so be it. Would I be making a change just because of these tariffs? No.
And we have time for one more question.
Hi, I'm Ryan. We live in Toronto. We were wondering what the fastest way to end this trade war would be.
And Martina, who better than the New York Times to tell us how quickly we can end this? What's your guidance on that?
Yeah, no pressure. Look, I think this is the hardest question, and I think the answer is not going to satisfy anyone. We just don't know. We don't really know what the ultimate goal that President Trump has in mind is beyond the question around borders and immigration and fentanyl. We don't know how much pain these measures will inflict on Americans. And I think that will really be the decisive factor. If the measures and countermeasures and the escalation of the trade war in North America starts hurting Americans in key places a lot and quickly, there is a good chance that these measures could be taken back. If not, this could be our future for a while.
Great answer. Thanks to all of you, Martina, Janice, Jason. Really interesting hearing your answers.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much.
It's Groundhog Day, but Canada's most famous rodents are telling very different stories.
All ye in attendance, it's now time to awake, our iconic symbol of Canada.
The cross-country predictions about when spring's arriving. Next. Another Groundhog Day is upon us, and this year, Canada's furriest weather forecasters are at odds over when spring will show up.
All ye in attendance, it's now time to awake, our iconic symbol of Canada, Wiarton Willie. We will have an early spring.
In Ontario, Wiarton Willie did not see his shadow. That means the wintry weather should soon disappear. His forecast seemed to please the crowd of hundreds of people who showed up to support this supposed fortune telling.
That's it.
Over in Quebec, Fred Lamarmotte had a different take. He did see his shadow. That means apparently a delayed spring in his neck of the woods.
Sam saw the shadow. Yay!
Nova Scotia's Shubenacadie Sam agreed 6 more weeks of winter in the Maritimes. That verdict backed up by his crustacean counterpart, Lucy the lobster. You know, to be honest, the only thing I really love about Groundhog Day is the movie. I hope that's not a controversial take, but the ritual on February 2nd, I never really fully understood it, but clearly a lot of people do and find it really exciting. From all of us at The National, thanks for being with us. CBC News will have continuing coverage of the Trump tariff threats on CBC News Network, streaming, and cbcnews.ca. I'm Ian Hannamansing in Vancouver. Good night.